All right, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to Texans Junkies. I'm Mark, joined as always by Nathan. And sorry, we were gone for a long time. Feels good to be back. Work, life, everything got in the way. Haven't talked since the Vikings preview, so we needed some extra help. So joining us today are two guests who have previously been on the show, Josh and Sam. Josh, how are you doing? I know you don't have the cam up, but how's everything? How's everything going over there?
Doing absolutely fantastic. I grew a set of horns since the last time I was on the show, as you can
Amazing.
tell from my face cam here.
You look
But no, it's
great.
been good. And yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate that. I don't think I look good in red and black, but time to go.
No, that's great to hear. And Sam, how are we doing over there?
Dude, fantastic. Glad to be back. Hanging in there.
Awesome. And Nathan, I'm sorry I didn't start with you. I hope you didn't get offended or anything. Are you doing okay?
No, I'm doing great, man. Ready
That's
to
good.
talk. Ready to talk some Texans.
Yeah, we needed. This is our first four-person show, so we're really going to compete with each other for sound bites and whatnot. But in all seriousness, we're going to get started. We're super excited to be back. We're going to start with a little bit of housekeeping. Jerry Hughes and British Brooks sent to IR, and I know we called up Tegan Quintoriano to the active roster, and we signed Kadar Holman. Nathan, do you have any thoughts on this? This is pretty minuscule news.
Yeah, no, I'm not too worried about it. I think Derek Barnett should be back next week or back for the Packers game. British Brooks, he had no real snap count in any of the games. It's been really Akers, Agumbawale, and that's really been about it. So not too worrisome.
Yeah, Jerry Hughes will be a loss. He's a nice rotational piece. Anything from y'all?
I agree. I think we just need to hold off one more week, and we'll get hopefully Autry back, unless there's some unforeseen circumstance that he can't. And yeah, we should be rolling from there.
British Brooks is
100%.
definitely a cult favorite of mine, so I'm a little sad.
Yeah, it is sad to see the hometown hero, even though probably not from Houston, but he was a great story this offseason in training camp. It's sad to see him go to IR.
And I do want to say something real quick. It's not related to the Texans, but Robert Saleh was fired today.
Yeah,
That's huge news for the NFL. People are saying Aaron Rodgers had something to do with it. I don't really think that's the case. I think they're just like not a good team, and they needed a change. But
I don't want
what do
to.
y'all think about that?
Can I start? I don't want to get too caught up in this, but I think that if you take all the events that have happened over the last 2 years, Rodgers runs this team, and he's 100% why Saul is gone, in my opinion. I just think if you connect the dots, like they have no chemistry whatsoever. There was a press conference where Salah was blaming Rodgers' cadence, and Rodgers didn't take too kindly to that. Like I think he's 100% why Saul is gone, and he'll be signed quickly to a team who needs a defensive coordinator. That's my opinion. Josh, do you have any thoughts?
I think he may not get a defensive coordinator role, but I've seen a lot of talk of him rejoining Shanahan or maybe even coming to the Texans. Of some stuff I've heard, him and D'Amico get along pretty well, and I've seen a lot of stuff of him being like a defensive, not coordinator, but an advisor or something like that in that kind of role, at least temporarily to get until he gets back on his feet. I don't think he's head coach material personally, but I do think he is a very talented coach overall.
Yeah, I think he was. I think he was promoted one position too high. But yeah, I have seen some smoke about him becoming like a defensive advisor or something for us. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Real quick, we're gonna glaze over the Vikings and the Jaguars games real quick. We're gonna focus on the Bills recap, but we've been gone and we're not about to do an hour and a half long pod on like 3 games that have occurred. I know people have some thoughts, especially about the Vikings game and the Jags game, honestly. But I'm gonna start out pretty broad. Nathan, what are your thoughts on just both of these games and how we've played? In anything general about these 2 games? Like, does anything stick out to you? Do you have any convictions about what's happened over those 2?
Yeah, I mean the Vikings game, like it was a blowout. Like there was nothing good that happened that day. Like we were out coached. They played better than we did. Now the Vikings are, in my opinion, the best team in the league. Yes, even better than the Chiefs. And I think Sam Darnold outplayed us. I think we just, I don't know. People say we got out schemed and we got all these things. Like I really truly think we just all played bad because look, I mean, the next week I think they played the Jets, and they barely squeaked by there. You know what I mean? Like they're squeaking by these other teams, and we're not worse than those teams they beat by that. Like, we didn't lose 35-7 or whatever it was. We're not that bad. Going to the Jags though, I mean, like the week after that, I mean, we improved. There were still some questionable things that happened there. I thought we should have won by more. Um, it seems like every game we're only winning by one possession, one score. So, but yeah, Vikings was a terrible game. Everyone saw it, and the Jags was a little bit better.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Sam?
Yeah, for the Vikings game, yeah, I agree exactly with what you said. There's really not one positive that I could really pull from that. I know he scored a touchdown, but it's a pity touchdown. The one thing that I noticed throughout that game, they didn't have Jordan Addison playing. You would think that maybe D'Amico's like, hey, they're going to try to force feed Justin, which they did. And we just didn't really put any bodies on him. We didn't try to press him. We didn't try to double him really from what I saw. And he just ate us alive. And I just feel like even if we had done that, we probably still would have lost. But I just would love to have seen some effort on that end. And then I was actually at the Jags game, and definitely improvement. Still a lot of penalties. Couldn't really stop the run for the most part. We had that goal line stop, but definitely improved from the Vikings game, but still looked pretty ugly in that win.
Yeah, we were just completely out schemed and out coached that game, from the start, and we didn't make proper halftime adjustments. I mean, it's bad. I know we keep saying there are no positives to draw, but there are literally none. Even Kaimi missed a field goal, and he doesn't do that. All right, so I don't know. That was a bad game. It was a tough watch. Jags, we made that difficult, but it was a cornered animal game for them. They for sure had just a ton of pressure, nothing to lose. It was good to get that win, and it was even better to see them beat the Colts the next week. So, Josh,
Absolutely.
Any thoughts before we move on?
Yeah. I mean, I think we got to remember that it's hard to win a game in the NFL. We got to. These are tough wins, but they're wins that you're gutting out, and it's good to see us getting the wins because prior years we're not finishing these games the way we have. We're not, winning these. We're not going 4-1. So it might be a tough loss or a tough win, but it's still a gutsy win, and you still want to get those. On the Vikings half, I think it was just they played to their absolute best and we played to our absolute worst. I think it was, everything went their way, a case of that. I mean, you see D'Amico said that, Caserio said that after the game, just when things are going, they just go that one way. There wasn't really much change, and we saw it play out on the field.
Yeah, a ton of momentum. It was really bittersweet watching former Texans do amazing against us, especially when we could have re-signed them. Blake Cashman, Jonathan Bernard, and further back, but Kamu Grugier-Hill got an interception. They were just all eating against us. It was brutal, but happy for them. Happy that they got their bag. Remember where you came from, I guess. Let's move on to the Texans versus Bills.
Hey,
game.
real quick too. I also want to get y'all's take on this too. I saw someone talking about the Texans are getting a lot of hate for getting all these close games or whatever. Well, the Chiefs, besides yesterday's game, the previous 4 weeks have all been one-score games. The Chargers, the Ravens, the Bengals. What is the difference between the Texans coming close and people hating on us it's too close, or we should have won by more, we need to stop having these games? But the Kansas City Chiefs are still, they find a way to win every single game. That's what they do, and that's what great teams do. They find ways to win. So I know y'all have seen some of the Twitter or Reddit about the Texans this, Texans that, it's too close, whatever. But what do y'all think about it? I think if a win's a win. It doesn't, they're like,
Absolutely.
Oh, you barely beat us. No, we beat you. That's just what it is.
Absolutely. It's hard to win this league. And I think, yeah, we win by a short amount, but you win. That's all that matters. You see the Colts lost, and people are saying there's a lot to take from that. You score 34 points, all that stuff. You still lost.
Right.
We won. Maybe we didn't smoke the Jaguars, but we won. That's what makes the difference. At the end of the season, we're going into the postseason, hopefully, and we have a good record. I'm not going to be like, oh, but we only beat the Jags by whatever, I'm going to be like, we beat the Jags. We beat, the Bills. We beat whoever we face. I feel comfortable in this team. A win is a win. At the end of the day, that's how I feel.
Yeah, agreed.
100%. Yeah, we've had to sweat them out, but being 4-1 at this point, really good, and it's a testament to a lot of things. CJ and Kaimi staying really cool under pressure because they've been a huge part of these wins. Defense has played very well recently too.
CJ Stroud's the new NFL header, by the way. Just testament to
I
how
saw
good we
that.
have been.
Yep.
Yeah.
Amazing. It should be Kaimi Loki, but anyway, we're gonna go over the Texans versus Bills game. Texans won, I believe, 23-20, and there's a lot we could say about it. It was a very interesting up and down game. I want to start with Sam on this one, actually. What are your takeaways for this game? Just in general, like how did you feel about anything from the play calling to the coaching in this one? Just general thoughts.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I'll start with the Texans. I love how whenever Texans games are going on, we're all texting each other. So what I was picking up from that is Bobby was actively trying to put CJ in the toughest third down situations possible. Run, pass, run, failed screen pass, and then we have to get like 3rd and 12 or 3rd and 9. So I wasn't a huge fan of that. We did convert a lot, but and then on the defensive side, we did a great job of shutting Josh Allen down. I'm really impressed. We almost I'm pretty sure we probably did give him a concussion. I know there's
absolutely
about that, but we did a great job. I know they didn't have Shakir, but regardless of that, we basically took him out of the game, which I'm very proud of the defense of. So those are my biggest takeaways.
Having the Bills coaching staff offer Josh Allen smelling salts on the sideline is basically an admission of guilt. Like, he was absolutely concussed. That is absurd.
You can look at their last 3 plays that he threw the ball.
Yeah, exactly. Which I'll get into that in a little bit.
I got a couple fun stats about that game.
Yeah, let's hear them.
So Josh Allen has the worst completion percentage for any quarterback that's ever thrown 30 passes in a game. 9 for 30, NFL record. So it's a really good way to hold him there. And then Sam, you were talking about, the offense is almost fighting Bobby Slowick for success. There's a stat I saw. It's called EPA. It's expected points added. It's kind of how you do well against the mean of the NFL. And on 1st and 2nd down, we are, I think, the 28th ranked team, which is horrendous. And on the third down, we are the 2nd ranked team. So on 3rd down, I think this team finally gets to be who they are. And you see that every single week. It's tough to see.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about it. We're going to do an Am I Overreacting segment today. I'm going to talk about it a little bit. But when you have your 3rd and 4th string running backs in, you should be a pass-first offense, regardless of the opposing team, unless you're playing maybe the Colts. You need to rely on CJ to win you games. I guess I'll expand a little bit more. I was very frustrated with Slowick's play calling. Really up and down. Very impressed with the defense. The defense, there were 2 drives where we let James Cook feast. He did amazing on those 2 drives. And then for some reason, the Bills abandoned that, and they started relying on Josh Allen. Josh just mentioned he went 9 for 30 that game, which they kept showing that stat over and over again. I didn't know it was the worst ever for 30-plus pass attempts. But we got a little bit lucky in that aspect, because I think if they kept relying on James Cook, things may not have gone our way. But the defense impressed me a lot. Our corners did well. Our safeties had their first decent game, in my opinion, this year. And we got some pressure, not as much as I'd like. The offensive line limited penalties, which was great. I wanted to talk about one thing that had me absolutely furious this game. I think I was texting over the group chat a lot of expletives and, any negative emojis I could find. We had 2 phantom holding calls on both sides of the line in I believe the 4th quarter of this game. We had offensive holding, which was non-existent. It was on Shaq Mason, and they showed the replay, and it was clearly should have been a no call. And then defensive holding that they didn't show the replay on at all, I don't believe, or maybe they did, and there was nothing.
They showed the replay, and it was not a hold.
It was absurd. If you rewatch this game or you happen to, go back and take a look at that, and you'll see why I was there was like cartoon smoke coming out of my ears, and I kind of made a scene at my girlfriend's house. Her whole extended family was over. It was a mess, but I was yelling a little bit. But yeah, that had me pissed off. I'm glad we were able to pull out the win. Nathan, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think I have a little bit different take. I mean, yeah, I think it's great that Josh Allen, we held Josh Allen to 9 completions for 130 yards. That's awesome. I think that has a lot to do with the defensive line. I think that also has to do with his mistakes. We saw him overthrow a couple passes. We saw him try to force things. Honestly, I think our secondary is poor. I think our tackling is poor. I think our linebackers are mediocre. I don't think anything but our D line is any better than average. I think our D line does a pretty good job. Daniil Hunter is our highest rated player on our defense according to PFF. Through 5 weeks, Kamari Lassiter has allowed almost 200 yards receiving. Derek Stingley has allowed over 115. Azeez Al-Shaair has allowed about 170. And Jimmy Ward has allowed 150. It's crazy. And in the tackling, I mean, you saw Keon Coleman break off for a 49-yard pass because of poor tackling. You see James Cook break off for a screen, I believe, because of poor tackling. I feel like in D'Amico's defense, tackling is like the number one thing, right? Like he talks about it all the time. He talks about it in the preseason. And these are all players that we thought, especially Derek Stingley, who I think is in my opinion, has been a pretty big disappointment this year as far as what we thought his potential could have been. Not saying he's absolutely terrible. I'm just saying he's not what we thought. I do think our safeties are, Kalen Bullock is doing well. Jimmy Ward, he just gets hurt every game, dude. I don't even know what you want to do with that anymore.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know, man. I think our defense has a lot to work on. I'm not impressed. So, if you it may look like a good defensive game. I think it was a great offensive game that got held back by Bobby Slowick. The first drive was a screen to Dare that got blown up. Then 2 runs by Dare, who had 15 carries for 30 yards. That's mind-boggling. I don't know what the hell he thinks. I don't know what goes through his head. I think we're going to talk about it in a little bit with our overreaction, but I am not a fan of Bobby Slowick, and I'm not a fan of our defense either.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from for sure. That play with Keon Coleman stuck out like a sore thumb, especially because he had Lassiter one-on-one, and if Lassiter does not make that tackle, it's a touchdown, and he didn't make the tackle. I agree the tackling's been subpar. I will say those numbers, like how many yards they've had, that is over 5 games. So they do sound pretty big, but over 5 games, I feel like that's not awful. I think I have a higher opinion of Stingley than you do, which is fine. We can have different opinions. But I will agree that our secondary has been bad so far. It has not been good. I think our linebackers have been pretty good, considering we don't have Christian Harrison. I think
I would say
Toto has been good. Yeah, I think they've been good. I think our D-line is not getting enough pressure. I'll say that. They've been average in my opinion. But yeah, I totally see where you're coming from. And better play calling. This game would not have been as close.
Yeah, and also I just want to put it in another perspective for y'all to see. They've allowed a total of almost 1,000 receiving yards through 5 games. So maybe that's a better way to look at it. Altogether, that's how much they've allowed. About 900 and some change. That's not good at all. Like that's poor. I mean, that has to be one of the worst in the league. Has to be.
I would be interested. I don't think it's one of the worst in the league, but it could be. You might be right. I mean, Sam Darnold really messed us up, but other than that, I'm not sure. I don't know the stats, so I'm not going to make any claims or anything. But any more thoughts on this game from anyone?
Kymie's the new Justin Tucker.
100%.
And Nico, unfortunately, is out too.
He is, yeah. Suffered that injury. Kyemie, all-time leading Texan scorer. Congratulations. That was amazing.
It's exciting, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nico, he passed up whoever our first kicker was. I want to say Chris something. I can't remember. I should
Chris
know that.
Brown.
Was it Chris Brown? Yeah, that sounds right.
Chris with
He was our first kicker ever. So
That's wild.
Yeah, amazing job by Kaimi. All right, let's move into our Am I Overreacting segment. Each one of us has made a claim, and they're going to make that claim, and we're going to decide whether or not it's an overreaction, if it's justified, or if somehow it's an underreaction. We're going to start off with Josh. Our guests go first. Nathan and I like to treat our guests very well. There will be an after podcast buffet. Feel free to have as much as you want. Josh, take it away.
Yeah. I think Kamari Lassiter, for all the hate that a certain member of this podcast, who shall go unnamed, has just dispelled onto him. I think he should have gone top 15 in this draft. He went 42nd overall, and I think there's a lot of talent in this draft, but I think he is one of the premier talents. When you look at some of the other guys drafted, there's Quinyon Mitchell, went to the Eagles, having a fantastic season. Don't get me wrong. I think he should have also gone top 15. But you look at someone else, like Nate Wiggins hasn't done much. Ricky Pearsall falling off. Terrion Arnold, I haven't heard much about him either. There's a lot of good players in this draft, but I think Kamari Lassiter has played exceptionally well. I think you can kind of look at someone drafted very, very similar to him as Kool-Aid McKinstry. And Kool-Aid was just as hyped as Kamari went before him in the draft. And Kool-Aid has one pass defense. He has 7 tackles this entire season. Kamari Lassiter has the same amount of pass defense in this game against Buffalo. He's got tons. I think he has 3 or 4 already. He is proving himself to be Derek Stingley's, partner on the other side. And that's hard to do. I think Stingley's a very fantastic player. And I think Kamari Lassiter is very under-repped outside of Houston. I think he absolutely is a premier talent in this game. And it's hard to play CB in this league, man. And it is exceptionally hard to do it at a high level your, freshman year, your rookie year. You look at Sauce Gardner, he played exceptionally well. But he's kind of one of the few that you look back and be like, wow, he had a great rookie year. And I think Kamari, obviously, he's not Sauce Gardner. I'm not going to say that. He's nowhere close, obviously. But he's having a fantastic season. He's 5 games in. I think there's a lot more for him to grow on, and I think he's already doing well. You mentioned the yards allowed. I think he makes 1 tackle on Keon Coleman, where he does look like a rookie on that one. He oversteps. He tries to fix his error, and, he steps too far, and Keon Coleman spins out and takes it 50 yards. Without that, I think he had an exceptional game. You look at Stingley being a lockdown corner on the other end. They're not targeting him. So they got to go somewhere else. And more often than not, they're coming to Kamari's side. And he's playing just as well. I think there's a long way for him to go, but I love the way he looks, man. I'm excited to see him grow. And I think we found a steal here. It's a Nick Caserio masterclass as per usual.
Nice. Sam, how do you feel about that?
I agree with that, yeah. The one thing I would expand on is, they're just targeting Kamari more because Stingley's just such a ball hawk, great pass deflector. So Kamari's not going to be perfect. Like, he's going to make mistakes because he's getting more volume of, potential plays coming his way. And, in a perfect world, he can make every tackle, he can stop every pass, but no, it's just not realistic. So I think it's a good learning experience for him, though. You're just throwing him into the fire, and he's going to, hopefully evolve second half season and really start locking people down.
Yeah, I think that's a good take. It's a little too early to say for me, like top 15, but hey, we want to have spicy takes to talk about and debate and discuss. And I think Kamari, for being thrusted into a starting role as a rookie, has done a very good job. I love how he is a hard hitter. He had 1 hit, I think it was on Cook, actually, that game
in the backfield,
where you're just like, oh my God, this dude is a beast. It was like a Jalen Petrie type of hit, where you just hear the crunch from the telecast, and I think he has a lot of room to improve. He's a little bit raw still, but if he can just like sharpen up his skill set a little bit more and keep that same dog energy in him, like I think he's an awesome addition and a great energy for our defense. Nathan, you were just talking about stats and how Kamari's stats maybe look less than desirable. How do you feel about this claim?
I mean, top 15 is a little bit of a stretch. He definitely should have gone first round, though. I mean, it's not that big of a overreaction, but I mean, he's not better than Quinyon Mitchell. He's not better than Terrion Arnold. He's not better than Kool-Aid McKinstry. Now, can he be throughout the course of the year? Yeah, I mean, he could definitely improve. I mean, everyone has room for improvement. But I mean, there's a lot of corners that were picked above him, rightfully so. But I think he has the potential. And like you said, he's a rookie that got thrown in to be CB2 next to Derek Stingley against, you know, Jeffersons and all these other, great receivers that we've played that, rookies make mistakes. Rookies let yards like he does go. I mean, it's just poor tackling is a rookie mistake, right? Like, I bet if that was Derek Stingley on Keon Coleman, he probably makes that tackle. You know what I mean? But it's just experience. I don't think it's that far fetched. I mean, it's a little too high for me, but first round seems definitely for sure. I think he should have gone first round.
Let me say one
totally
thing
fair.
real quick.
Mhm.
He has a 42 passer rating against when targeted as a rookie. Exceptional.
That's exceptional. And I know you just said Terry and Arnold is better. I don't disagree with that, but I think Kamari has played a lot better than Terry and Arnold to start out. I know Arnold has struggled in the first 5 games. I do think he has a little bit of a bigger role than Kamari, though. But regardless, interesting take. I don't think it's crazy. Maybe a stretch. Probably too early to tell. All right, Sam, go for it.
Yeah. So yeah, I had really high hopes. I still have the high hopes for Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. They were touted as being a top 5, defensive end duo, in going into the season. And even though they're getting a lot of pressures, I just don't think they're going to combine for over 20 sacks. I mean, they're not on pace to do it. I think like Danielle has like maybe 2.5. And then Will has like a sack or 2. They're getting great pressure. They're just not like finishing off the play effectively enough to where we can really bring down these quarterbacks or at least get a bunch of TFLs. And I think Danico Autry coming back will help out with that because I feel like we're not getting a lot of pressure up the middle as much as we'd like to take the attention off of the end, the end guys. But yeah, I just don't see them at this pace reaching and combining for over 20 or 19, 20 sacks.
Yeah, definitely not an overreaction. I mean, I agree 100%. I think they're just starting off too slow. But D'Amico has been very vocal about not caring about the numbers like that. I'm the same way. As long as you get pressure, and honestly, I do kind of disagree with the Danico Autry claim. Like once he comes back, it'll be better. I think Mario Edwards and Foley Fatukazi have been just fine, and I don't really see Danico Autry making that much of a difference. Now, I will say, Danico Autry did have 11.5 sacks last year. But Foley Fatukazi, I think, is leading our team in sacks, isn't he? Like he has like 3 or 3.5. Like, him and Mario are getting pressure up the middle, and they're slowing down the run. There's a lot of teams that can't slow down James Cook. He had 20 carries for 84 yards. I'd say that's pretty good, especially considering when that was their only option to get some sort of offense going. You know what I mean? Because Josh Allen only completed the ball 9 times out of 30. But yeah, I am a little, I would have liked to see more of the sack numbers a little more up, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Josh, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think they're actually not doing too bad. Through 5 games, they have 4 sacks combined, which I'm not sure how the math goes on that. I don't think it quite puts them where they need to. But expanding on what Nathan said, I think Danico Autry is a good upgrade for this team. Obviously, not what Sam's talking about, but I think Autry is a huge piece. He has 11 sacks. Fatukasi only has 1 on the season. He has 1 versus the Colts, and that's it. I think when you see guys like Derek Barnett come back, and you see guys, we're talking about missing other guys on the line. It's a rotation. You're never going to have the same 3-4 guys out there. When you can get 5 premier guys like we're talking about on the line, not every play, but when they're rotating out, they're tired. You're still having a guy come in. Maybe you have someone who had 15 sacks come out the game, and you bring someone in with 11 sacks last season. It's a fantastic rotation. That's what you want. It's about the depth that I think our D-line is going to be successful this year. You look at the last play of the game, the last play, the Josh Allen throw. He had a guy wide open over the middle of the field and probably makes that throw, knowing Josh Allen, unless Will Anderson just storms into him the way he did on that last play, just bull rushing his guy right back into Allen. So it makes a difference. I'd like to see a lot more pressure going forward. Don't get me wrong. We put a lot of money and time and effort into this team and a lot of draft picks into this D line, but I think there's room to grow, and I think that it's not an overreaction to say they might not reach 20, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them get 16, 17 combined. I think they're that good.
Yeah, I will say a lot of our sack numbers were padded during that Bears game where we had like 6 combined sacks and Caleb Williams just looked like a rag doll out there. That was a brutal game. Amazing to watch. But yeah, I personally have been disappointed with the amount of pressure we've gotten on the opposing quarterback. It seems like a lot of times we're backing up the offensive linemen, but we're not hitting gaps as much as I'd like to, and we're not actually applying pressure and destroying the pocket. So I would like to see those numbers improve. I also think, Josh, that Danico Autry is going to be an awesome addition to the team for the same exact reasons you mentioned. Rotational purposes, we are thin on D-tackle. I was preaching it in the offseason. We need more D-tackle help. But I do think that Foley and Mario Edwards have done a pretty good job. So that's just my opinion. But yeah, I think they will barely get 20. I think once we get Danico back and maybe scheming changes, we're on pace right now for them for like 15 or so, but I think they'll turn it up a little bit.
Last thing too, before we go to the next, I think also the way that D'Amico calls blitz too, a lot of our linebackers will get like Eric Murray had a sack versus the Jags, and so we do run a lot of like corner or like the outside linebackers rush a lot, and so that also kind of takes away potential numbers from the DNs as well. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Sure, absolutely. All right. So my potential overreaction is Bobby Slowick should not be retained next year, despite any head coaching opportunities that he may or may not receive, despite anything that happens. We should not retain him. I almost went as far to say as he should be fired. I think that was a little more emotionally charged and maybe not good for the team, especially since we've had a whole offseason and the start to the season to work together and have an offensive plan. But I just want to read off some stuff that I wrote down. And this is in addition to us talking about run, pass, how we set up CJ for third down, relying on him to be the hero, like Sam was talking about. So the last 3 games, we have had our 3rd and 4th and 5th string running back only. Damian Pierce and Joe Mixon have been out. So last 3 games, we have averaged 3.1 yards a rush with our running backs, 56 attempts for 176 yards. Last game, we averaged 3 yards a rush, 24 attempts last game with our 3rd and 4th string running backs, 24 attempts for 72 yards. And without that Cam Akers run for a touchdown, the numbers were horrible. So let me read off some plays. And that's just talking about his play calling, and he's running way too much, relying on the run way too much with Dare in there when we have a generational talent at quarterback. I don't like his play calling. Okay, 2 plays that stood out to me a lot last game. So early in the game, we have a 17, I believe it was 17-3 lead. It may have been 14. It was 14-3 actually. 17-3. It's 4th and 1 in Bills territory around the 20-yard line. And we can either take the points and kick a field goal, which is a gimme from there for Kaimi. It's 38 yards. We can either take the points or we can come up with a creative play call or just QB sneak it, and we get the yard. It's not a long yard. It's 1 yard. We run it up the middle with Dario Ogunbowale. That is not a good play. I don't care. I don't care what you think or if you're a fan or if you're on the sideline. You do not take your 4th string running back and run it up the middle on 4th and 1 based on any logic or any other runs you've seen from Dare. You do not do that. Easy stop for the Bills. They get possession. We don't get any points. The one that had me absolutely furious last game. So it's 3rd down and there's 44 seconds left in the game. And everyone in the entire stadium, all the fans, all the coaching staff, everyone watching around the world, Houston, I don't care where you were, knows that what you do here is you run the ball. You run the ball, you run 40 seconds off the clock, and you either guarantee overtime or a win. No way the Bills can win in regulation. We throw a pass on 3rd down with 44 seconds left. It's incomplete. and then we're forced to punt. Now, you might be thinking, well, a field goal would be too long there. Well, it would have been a 57-yarder, and Kaimi hit from 59 to win the game. Everyone knows you run there, and it's like it's the most elementary decisions that Bobby fucks up that make me angry. Like it's things that all the fans know you need to do right here, and it's the time management, it's everything, and he just disappoints. And we are so fucking lucky that the Bills, for whatever reason, decide to throw 3 straight times from their own end zone inexplicably for no reason whatsoever. You're on the 2-yard line, just run the ball. Like, it makes no sense why they threw, and that's why people are calling for Sean McDermott's job, by the way. And it kind of smoothed over things with Bobby. He got very lucky that we got the ball back and Kaimi managed to save the day. But we handed the Bills this game, or at the minimum overtime, on a silver platter, and they somehow handed it back to us. We lucked out big time. Slowick disappointed me, and I said he should be fired in our group chat. Maybe that was too emotional, but the decision-making that has come from Slowick has been troublesome at best and psychotic at worst. What are y'all's thoughts?
I mean, absolutely. You look at the players that we have, right? You talked about the running back. Yes, Cam Akers went and scored. Cam Akers had a hole the size of a barn door to run through, and 2 defenders on the left side with great down blocking from a wide receiver. I think any NFL running back, maybe any college running back, can go and score on that one play. Okay, he had a huge hole. Outside of that, there was no run success. Not a one. And you point out the one where we have 4th and 1, easy chip shot field goal for Kaimi to go get some points. And we run the ball. And not only do we run the ball, we run the ball with 30 seconds left on the play clock. We go up, we quick snap it. We don't take a second to think about what we're doing and just hammer the ball the whole way home with our 3rd, 4th string running back. It's absolutely, I have no way to defend what happened. And then I think Bobby got in his feels about what happened on that play, tried to get creative at the end of the game and do something different, and then messes it up. You know what I mean? And CJ, I trust CJ in those situations. And, Dalton Schultz goes out for a pass, cuts the wrong way, intentional grounding, 10 yards, 57-yard field goal turns into a 67-yard punt. It's mind-blowing.
Real quick, we saw that that's not a gimme. Like, we saw Saquon drop that ball and allow the Falcons to win. I believe it was the Falcons to win that game. Like, It happens, even with great quarterbacks and great receivers. It happens. But what drove me the most mad, and what possibly caused a rift with my girlfriend's family and I forever, was that Bobby Slowick wants to establish the run so badly. He wants to run the ball, pass, run, run. He wants to run the ball. And in the opportunity where it is the most go figure run of all time, he's like, oh, let's pass it because that's what the fans want. It blew my mind. Like last play, what should have been the last play of the game, in my opinion. And that's when he chooses to pass. It was infuriating. I was so pissed off. Sam, sorry, Josh.
Not to cut in real quick. Sorry. He had a press conference before the game. I think it was on Wednesday or Thursday or something after a practice, and mentioned that offense as a whole is not just throwing. He said, I know we have CJ, and I know we have all those guys, and it'd be fun to go out and throw the ball 50, 60 times, but we can't do that. We have to set up the pass. And that's his mindset, is setting up the pass.
No one's
I understand
saying
he wants to do that, but we said, I texted you this on game day. We have the ability to use the run, not to set up the pass, but as the other way. Use the pass to set up a tricky run. You throw it, play action maybe. Get them biting on Stroud, one of the best quarterbacks in this league, and I would argue a top 1 receiving core in the league when we have all our players. And instead, we are just doing mindless things every single time. It is infuriating as a fan to watch. And Nathan, you pointed this out earlier. What the opening drive? We went, run, screen pass to Dario Mbugawale. 3 times. We have Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz, CJ Stroud. And our game plan, opening game, set the opening drive, set the tone for the whole game. Dario Mbugawale. That's our backup kicker getting the ball 3 times.
It's crazy. It's mind-blowing. It's unbelievable. It honestly, And no disrespect to Dare, he did great in the receiving game. Very impressed. I'm very impressed with his role, but Bobby's setting him up to fail in the run game. It's so clear. I could talk about this for like an hour. Sam, do you have any thoughts on this? Do you think this is overreaction? Do you share the same sentiment? What do you think?
No, I share it. I mean, I think besides the Colts game, he hasn't coached a good game at all. Like, he actually coached a decent game versus the Colts. I will say that. He drew up some great plays. Another thing I wanted to touch on, it was kind of an opposite game where the Bills, the run was working and they abandoned it. And for us, the run wasn't working, but we didn't abandon it. So it was like if either team would have like just flipped their strategy, the game would have probably, I don't know what would have happened, but it would have looked different. So it's interesting in that facet.
Both teams wanted the other to win so badly this game. That was the frustrating part. It was unbearable. And then Kaimi was like, "We're winning this fucking game." Nathan, any thoughts on this? Because I know you also have a negative opinion of Slowick.
Yeah, this is going to take me a minute, so just buckle in.
I can't wait.
Bobby Slowick is a terrible offensive coordinator. He is, I believe, should be fired. And if he's not fired, you keep him in the building and you have Gerard Johnson call plays. He should be stripped of his play calling privileges. First of all, going back to the play at the end of the game with 44 seconds left, no one said that the Bills had no timeouts. So you run the ball.
Right.
You let 40 seconds play. You let 40 seconds go. They have no timeouts. And you're telling me Dare averaged 2 yards a carry, right? So it's a 57-yarder. He gets 2 more yards. Now it's a 55-yarder. His career high is a 61-yarder. He hit a 59 to win the game. And Bobby knows this stuff. Like, it's not like he's like he doesn't know that his kicker can't hit that, right? So that's one. They have
CJ
no
taking a knee there makes more sense than throwing it, and it would still be a shorter field goal. It would be 58 instead of 59. It's ridiculous.
And time off the clock.
Yes, I also believe that this, like people love bringing up the Shanahan tree. They, the 49ers love the run. They're good at the run because they have a better O-line than the rest of the league. We don't have a great O-line. We don't. It's just this is the first game I believe Laramie Tunsil didn't have a penalty. I didn't see it. Did he have a penalty?
He did not.
Nothing. No penalties.
That's amazing. That's improvement, right? But despite him, we have a rookie at right tackle. We have a left guard who hasn't played in 2 years. We have a center who's a second-year guy who didn't play half of the season last year. And then Shaq Mason has been mediocre at best because his age is showing. We have not a good O-line. Okay, so that's number one, or that's number two. Nico was not in on the last play. So you're passing the ball with Tangdell, who hasn't really been as productive, who we'll talk about in the next one. And then you have John Mechie in there, and then I think Dare was the running back in. Again, just I don't get it. You don't have Nico Collins in. Maybe Steph was in there. But you throw it to Dalton Schultz. You know what I mean? It's like I like Dalton Schultz. I think he's a great piece to our offense. But you paid a receiver $20 million in Stephon Diggs. You have John Mechie, who you want to get more active, right? And Nico's not in the game, but you throw the ball. It doesn't make any sense. Also, I saw that when John Mechie, a couple of times this game, they lined up with John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson in the game only. No Stephon Diggs, no Tangdell. 62% of plays when it's just John Mechie and Xavier Hutchinson is a run. It's a run. So if us fans know that, Sean McDermott knows that. And the same way that us fans know that you should run, everybody in that building knows you should run. I know the owners saw what happened on that last play and were like, what is he doing? Or Casario's like, what is he doing? That is never a pass because of that reason. It's called an intentional grounding, and then we have to punt. And speaking of punt, we have a terrible punter who we paid a good amount of money to, who is a Super Bowl champion, all-pro punter, and he can't punt 50 yards? Am I seeing things?
I want to talk about this. You just struck a chord with me. I was going to talk about it for the preview for the Patriots.
This is just Mark's hate segment.
Oh my god, dude!
Let me.
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you, I was screaming during that game. A lot of people will never look at me the same. Tommy Townsend every time he punts the fucking ball, you watch the returner. It doesn't matter where he's punting from. His probably longest, and only good punt was at the end of the game, where granted we needed it most. But every other punt, the receiver tracks the punt and then is running, and he runs forward, and he catches it 10 yards in front of his anticipated landing zone, and he has a running start at that point. And it's like if DeMeco is not bringing in punters to challenge Tommy's spot on the roster this week, I don't know what the fuck we're doing.
Yeah.
Like there has to be a better option. I was looking at statistics. Out of 30 eligible punters who have averaged 2.5 punts or more per game, Tommy Townsend ranks 28th in average yards per punt.
Yeah, I saw that.
28th.
Yeah.
It's terrible. He's done a bad job, and you have to bring in some sort of competition to either wake him up or I don't know at this point. Like, I'm not really sure. I really miss the days of Shane Lechler where he was guaranteed top 5 in punting yards, and he would just pin the opponent way back. And by the way, I looked. Shane Lechler was on the team 7 years ago. I thought it was like 4 years ago. That blew my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, time flies. But oh my God, Tommy pissed me off. I was in like Instagram and comments and Reddit threads bitching about him. It was terrible.
I mean, Tommy hasn't been good all year. I also want to say special teams has been probably the worst we've seen in the last couple of years. You know, whenever we were at our worst, special teams was always our best, right? Steven Sims fumbles, right? He fumbles a punt return. Then Robert Woods, for some reason, catches a ball. What was it, on the 5 when he could have just let it go and go?
Oh,
in the end zone?
yeah.
I mean, it's just like stupidity. Like, it's just stuff that you know not to do. And coming from Robert Woods, who everyone remembers the famous play where they were like, oh, IQ 120 or whatever, 1,000 IQ, whenever he went out of bounds, laid down and grabbed the ball on a kickoff, and then that went to the 40. Okay, that was Robert Woods in a Rams uniform that did that. 1,000 IQ guy. Why touch the ball on the 5? Why even risk it? You know what I mean? It's just.
I think that was Randall Cobb in a Packers uniform.
I think it's happened multiple times.
Probably. You're probably right.
Robert Woods has done it too. He's done it in a Texans uniform.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you know, this game again, we could be 0-4 or 0-5. We most definitely could be 0-5, right? But when good teams find ways to win, and I'd much rather be 4-1, like we were talking about earlier with the Chiefs and all that stuff. Like, good teams find ways to win. But the problem is they do find ways to win. But when your own team is trying to give the game away, you know, it's irritating. And especially your offensive play caller. Like, it just doesn't make sense what's going on with Bobby Slowick. I think he should be stripped of his privileges. I'd be happy if he got fired. And him and Saleh can go find a job together.
I don't think that's a crazy take. I want to elaborate a little bit more on Robert Woods. That fair catch inside the 5 was ridiculous. However, I actually think he's done a decent job of returning punts overall.
We got the field goal.
He's had some good returns. So. Yeah, he had one punt down the sideline too. It was really impressive. Sims disappointing when he fumbled in that Vikings game, but yeah, I don't think like special teams has been a disaster. I think Townsend's been a disaster overall, and returning's been like average maybe. But overall, I mean, the kicking game lifts this team up so much, in my opinion, that if you can say a facet of special teams is bad, but our special teams as a whole is probably well above average. So.
And I'm gonna disagree with that only because
That's
your
fair.
kicker can only do so much, and when you have to flip a field, your punter is huge, and he hasn't been able to flip the field. The only reason that we are in a spot talking about Josh Allen throwing it from his own end zone is because he was at their R45 and was able to punt it 40 yards. He's not a good punter. Like, yeah, people are like, oh, it's a good punt. I hope it's a good punt. He's an all-pro punter. Like, anybody could have done that. Anybody. Cameron Johnston, who's out for the year with a broken leg, could have punted that ball. You know what I mean? It's don't hype up this guy. He's terrible.
Yeah.
And the special, and Kaimi's great. Kaimi's great. But our special, you can't. He's only one part, and he does his job.
Listen, I know you're saying
Kaimi, it's a problem.
I know you're saying Kaimi can only do so much, but he can do so much. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, he can do so much. It's amazing. Let's move on because listen, we can talk about this forever. But I don't think it's crazy to say Bobby Slowick should lose his job, especially considering this is his second year and he's making rookie mistakes. Nathan, go ahead and take this one.
I'm gonna just say this. I don't mean any disrespect because I still love Tank Dell. I think he's a great player. I just think it was a little overhyped coming into the season, considering now 6 weeks in, he just hasn't done much. Now, is that because there's too many weapons on offense? I don't know. I honestly think it's the opposite. I just think he's not getting open, and he's not like there really mentally. I mean, C.J. Stroud and him are really good friends. I do think that CJ takes that into consideration, like, hey, I want to get my buddy the ball or whatever. I'm sure they talk outside of the game without Nico or Steph there. Obviously, Nico's their number one target, right? But it just seems like Tank Dell's not getting open. And I feel like before the year started, we were talking about we have 3 number ones. I don't know, man. Tank Dell's pretty clear-cut number 3 on our team, and it's not really close. Stephon Diggs, we knew he was better, but we thought like, oh, he's younger, he's coming back faster, better than ever. His words. That it would be kind of like a 3-headed monster, right? But it's not, and it's not. It hasn't been that way since the year started. Tank hasn't scared any defenses. Steph has. I think Steph has done a really good job. I think he's done what we kind of wanted him to do. And Nico, he's him. You know what I mean? Like, the dude has one play for 78 yards and goes out because his hamstring got hurt, and he was only in for a couple of plays. Like,
please rest, my king. Please rest.
And getting into the next segment too. After we're done with this, we'll talk about it, but we can start now. He's hurt. Don't play him. Just let him rest. Let him rest for the Packers game. He went from day to day to week, which most likely means he's not playing against the Patriots. It'd be stupid to play him against the Patriots. But yeah, Tank Dell, I just think all the hype and all the expectations are like he's not living up to those at all, right? I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm going to touch on this first. I think due to the events of the offseason, the broken leg, recovering from that, and him being shot, I know he said, I'm back and better than ever, but I want to give him some more time before I come to a decision on that. I will say you are correct that he is the clear-cut wide receiver 3 on this team. You are correct. I hope Nico rests next week because I think that he did get some more reps and some more he got a couple of targets at the end of the game, or a few targets rather. I hope that he can use this Patriots game to sort of have his breakout game. Because my bold prediction for the last game was that Tank Dell eclipses 20 fantasy points, and he had 7. So
yeah,
I hope that he can take this next game to sort of get in a groove and take advantage of a team that's been struggling. Sam, how are you feeling about this?
Yeah, I mean, he's honestly going into the season. He had a lot on his mind. I don't think he's the kind of guy to compare how he's doing this season to how he did last season. But that could be something that's affecting him too. He may be overthinking it, and he's getting ahead of himself. I want to top what I did last year, which, I mean, it's pretty tough considering where he left off. But going into the Pats game, I think definitely I hope he gets more targets, and I hope he gets more involved. It'd be dumb not to because he's so versatile weapon. But yeah, I think going into the season, he definitely was way overhyped. And especially for fantasy, he was way overhyped. So, but yeah, that's my analysis.
Yeah, agreed.
Josh?
Yeah, we talked a lot about Bobby Slowick being the source of issue for a lot of things that we have going on in the offense, and I don't think it's any different with Tank. We see him trying to get him involved, like you saw an end around last game to get Tank, but there's no blocking. No one fooled anything. He got -3 yards, I think, on that one. I think you have to force targets to some people. You have to force targets to Nico, and you have to force targets to Steph. But when you're running the ball 20, 30 times a game, you only get so many snaps, CJ Stroud will throw the ball 30 times. If 20 of those are going to Nico, Steph, maybe a couple of tight end, Tank just doesn't have the opportunity to get the ball, especially when we run the ball, the amount we do. I don't think there's any chance he gets this many targets in this offense at its current state. And I think that's a disservice to this Texans team. He is undeniably a talented wide receiver. He is fast. He has great body control in the air. He has great hands. He's smart. He knows what he's doing. There's a reason we took him in the third round. It showed last year, and he just doesn't have a chance in this offense. He's the third guy behind two absolute studs. The ball has to go somewhere. It's got to end up somewhere. It's usually going to end up in Nico's hands. It's usually going to end up in Stefan's hands in the red zone. And then we run it too much for Tank to have a chance. I think it's a scheme issue more than a Tank issue or a CJ issue or anything like that. He just doesn't get a chance in this offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's like the fifth guy to Bobby. I mean, you see, like Dare.
I'm not sure he exists.
And Cam Akers is above him. And I mean, Dare gets the ball more. He gets more targets than fucking Tank Dell. Like, I don't even know how that's possible. Like, this guy's our four-string running back, and you have a clear-cut wide receiver three, probably one of the best wide receiver threes in the league, who gets less targets than your back four-string running back. Not saying that Dare isn't great in the receiving game, but just saying.
No, I agree. I don't know why at this point. I agree that you should kind of force it to Tank a little bit more. But why don't we air the ball out more and like just take the strategy? Like, Tank is fast. At least try to draw a defensive pass interference or something. Like, air the ball out to him.
Yeah.
Like, he can outrun receivers. Exactly. He has the arm, but Bobby doesn't air the ball out enough. He did it once last game, and what happened? Nico caught a 67-yard touchdown.
Cole,
it's so it is mind blowing. I agree with you, Nathan. I thought maybe I've been overreacting too much during the game. I said Bobby needs to take a back seat with the play calling. I think I'm back in that arena after talking about it a little bit more. Really disappointing.
Yeah,
I'm hoping that something clicks, some kind of connection occurs, because I don't see him being fired or losing play calling duties. But you just got to hope for this
critical
point.
Game. Yeah. Critical game for him coming up.
Yeah,
those Texans deserve a dominant win filled with carving up the defense through the air. Like, we deserve one.
I want to be able.
I
want to be able to take a bathroom break.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to be able to walk away from the TV.
Our next talking point.
Yes.
Let's get into our next talking point.
I agree. Texans versus Patriots preview. Listen, can we have one game where I'm not suffering from some sort of cardiac arrest at any point during the game? I just want a game where we win comfortably. And you can see, if you just like follow the Texans on Instagram, that's what all the comments are about. Like, can we win by more than one score? I would actually love to see a statistic of when the last time was, how many times we won by more than one score over the last 2 years. Because I think it's just once, and it was against the Titans. Like, I can't think of a different time. And the Browns in the playoffs. But it has been stressful. Listen, Drake May is going to start this game for the Patriots, which personally I think is the dumbest decision they can make. The game plan, the season plan for the Patriots was put Jacoby in and he'll get killed. And that's okay. And it sounds great before the season, but then when you go in and week out and Jacoby's getting killed and you have no offense, then the pressure starts to mount, and now they're putting Drake May in, and it only took 5 weeks. So I think it's dumb. I think you keep Jacoby in, stick with the script. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Drake May ends up lighting it up and the offensive line somehow turns into a respectable unit for them. Overall, all I'm going to say is I think if we don't win comfortably here, I'm gonna have some very real concerns about us, because this is a team that we are better in
every aspect.
Every facet, yeah. Except their defense is really good. I'll give them that. But every other facet of the game, yeah. And we'll see if we have Joe Mixon. But
exactly,
we are better than this team, and we cannot play down to them. We can't afford to play down to them for team morale. Like it just. We need to show that we can win comfortably and we can beat bad teams. Nathan, I'm going to turn to you. What are your thoughts about this upcoming week?
Yeah, super quick, super easy. Trap game, yes, right? Like, obviously, this could very much be a trap game. But if you can't beat the Patriots comfortably without Nico, who won't be in, shouldn't be in, or Joe Mixon, or any of those guys, yes, we have real concerns. This should be an easy win. It should. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You're not betting against the Texans, so you're gonna say, I mean, we're minus 310 on the sports book. So We are very much favorites. We are also -7.5. But here's what I'm gonna say. This is what the game plan. This is you keep out Nico, keep him for the Packers. Keep out Joe Mixon. Keep out Christian Harris. Keep out Danico.
Prevent Danico from doing any drugs. We have to.
Keep out Danico Autry. Keep out those guys. We don't need them for this game. This game is not worth an injury risk to anybody. Now, I wish this game was like we were 10-1, right? I wish we were 10-1 for this game because then you don't even got to play CJ or anybody. You know what I mean? Like you could just put Davis Mills in and have our backups play this team. They're really bad. Miami beat them 15-10 with Tyler Huntley, who is terrible, and the Miami team, who is terrible, who lost the Titans so bad. This game should be very easy for the Texans. If you can't beat them, you have serious problems, and I guarantee you it'll be because of Bobby Slowick if there's any issues in this game.
I agree. And real quick, by the way, that Miami game versus New England, not only is their offense inept, but their defense is like eviscerated with injuries, and they allowed 10 points. If we find ourselves allowing more than 2 or 3 scores, that is a huge problem. That's a red flag to me. Like this needs to be this. This
needs to be like 3-28. Like it shouldn't be close.
Yeah, I agree. Josh, what are your thoughts?
We haven't scored 30 points in a game yet. If there is ever an opportunity to get this offense on the right page, ever an opportunity for Slowick to fix what he's done this last week, there was ever an opportunity for an easy game to get yourself set up in a way that you can project your season forward. It's almost a preseason game in my mind. You have to get this offense lined up. You have to go out and score 30. We haven't done it yet. Against this team, we should be scoring 50. Truth be told.
100%.
We should go out and score 60, 70% of our possessions, at least a field goal, if not a touchdown. There is nothing stopping us except our own ability. Christian Gonzalez, maybe. You know what I mean? He's one guy. And even then, he's not Pat Surtain. You know what I mean? We have to go out and crush this team. It is a first-time starter for a guy in the NFL. First time ever. They have no offensive line. They have no defense bar one player. You know, they have one wide receiver in Jalen Polk who's half decent. You need to go out and kill this team 35-4. 2 safeties.
They're also without their safety too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be mentioned that Jabril Peppers was charged with assault, battery,
everything,
strangulation, and possession of cocaine. I don't think any sort of team or league-wide punishment has been placed on him yet. However, he did miss the last game with a phantom injury designation. On I think Saturday is when these charges were found out by the team, and he had that injury designation, didn't play. I would expect him not to play, and that's actually a huge loss for them. So just to reiterate the sentiment, we cannot have this even be a tight game, in my opinion. Sam, any last thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I just want to see the offense go crazy, and I want to see some defensive takeaways. I want to see a pick six. I want to see some forced fumbles. Let Drake May know you're not going to have instant success in this league, and especially not versus us. Make him feel as uncomfortable as he's ever been. That's exactly what I want to see.
Yeah, I agree. We have had a lack of takeaways.
Yeah, if you can hold Josh Allen to 9-30, we should hold Drake May to 1 for 200.
I think that's perfectly reasonable.
Yeah, and I also their receiving core is way worse than Buffalo. But just to end it off, I want to go through one by one real quick, starting with Josh. Let's get a score prediction in. Let's see what we're gonna do to the Patriots. Most likely without Nico, Joe, Danico, Christian Harris. Keep those guys out. What's the score?
Realistically, I want to see us score, 30 plus. I'm not sure we can do it. I hope we can. I'm going to edge on the side of, you know what? Absolutely we will. We will. 31-27. to, let's say, 9.
Okay.
Sam?
I like it.
I'm gonna go like 35-6. I don't think they score a touchdown, but I think they get a couple field goals in there.
I think that I like it. I think we're going to make this harder than it needs to be, unfortunately. I think that it'll be 30-10. And that's 30 with like 3 field goals. And I bet we start out the game for some reason not being able to score a touchdown and having to run on field
3
goals.
and
I
out.
can totally see
Easy
it happening.
3 and out.
Just slow start, but 30-10. That's my prediction.
Yeah, look, I want us to win 100-0. Won't happen though because we have a terrible play caller. So this is how it's gonna. I believe realistically it's gonna go. I think it'll be like 20-13. I just history shows us that we can't put away games in a comfortable fashion, and the Patriots unfortunately are going to be, in my opinion, no different than that. There's some localized stuff there. Nick Casario going back to Gillette. He's been there. I think he's been back there since he's left. But, just stuff like that. A rookie, maybe he goes off his first game and destroys our defense. Their O-line plays better. I think we'll win the game for sure. But I think the book is going to be spot on. 20-13, I think, is going to be where it's at.
Yeah, I mean, the money always talks. I think there's going to be a change in that the team knows they have a chance with Drake May more than they have a chance with Brissett, just based off what they've done so far. I for certain would play harder for a rookie coming in who's given you a chance. He's a hyped guy. It's like, people. I think people are going to see that if they ever change the Giants players or they ever change the Browns players out and they get a different quarterback going. I think you're going to see better play from everyone else. They'll want to try more. This stuff matters to people. They want to win. These are the most competitive people on earth in some of these cases. They want to win desperately, and they will try harder when they have a better chance at winning than a guy who's gone. I don't know what the Patriots record is exactly, but 1-4.
And by the way, AFC East is wide open too. Like the Jets versus the Bills, they're playing for first place, and the Jets are 2-3. So that's Monday Night Football. So they won it.
Yep. But it's gonna be a good game. Hopefully we can put it away. But I think that's about it. I think we've covered everything. We'll try to be back next week after the game and look forward to Green Bay. Me and Mark are going to Green Bay, so it is going to be very tight. We are going to be
Tailgate
super
podcast?
busy. What is it?
Tailgate podcast?
That's a good idea.
It's a good idea. It is. But, we're going to be this weekend we got some stuff going on. The next weekend we got Green Bay. Then the next weekend we're going to the Frio. Then the next weekend we got just all sorts of stuff. So we just got a lot of stuff going on. But hopefully we can get one in next week. Josh, Sam, thank you guys for joining again. We always have, a good time with y'all on. Y'all have anything to say?
Appreciate y'all having me. Yeah, thanks, guys.
You.
Awesome. All right, guys.